everyone. This is Mary Beth Hartlove, the CEO of Prism HR Consulting. And during the month of March, I am really excited to be working on a project celebrating women for Women's History Month. And we will be releasing different videos throughout the month, highlighting women who are inspiring and really helping other women in our community as well. Today, I am pleased to introduce you to Helle Fjord Hudson. She is originally from Denmark and moved to Las Vegas in January of 2019, where she got married and settled down with Joe, who is a New Yorker from Queens, which is my old neighborhood, where I'm from too. She's had a career in the Danish Foreign Service, as well as corporate business. And additionally, she ran her own business as a certified sex and couple therapist in Denmark for 3 years before relocating to the United States. She now resides in Las Vegas and works remotely as a business development manager for a Danish recruitment agency, supporting companies in the renewable energy sector in the United States. On the side, she is establishing a business as a life coach. In her spare time, she is a community manager for GGI, which is a group called Girl Gone International. And she is 56 years old and has a son of 24 who lives in Denmark. So I really want to welcome you and thank you for participating in this project.
Thank you. And thank you for creating the project. It's so important.
Thank you. Thank you. So, you have an impressive resume and background, but, one of the questions that we always want to know is, how did you get from point A to B? What was your career path? And kind of talk to us about that. How did you get to where you are today?
It was a bit of a coincidence, actually. When I started in the Foreign Service, I was visiting my sister. So I had just graduated 6 months prior from commercial language school. And we were attending my older sister's silver wedding. And she was like, why don't you stay here? She lived in, and she still does, lives in Copenhagen area, which is the capital of Denmark. And I started looking out for jobs. I eventually did move over there, stayed with my family. And then all of a sudden, this job came up in the Foreign Service, and my sister said, go for it. And I thought, oh, gee, I'm in the city now. I really don't know. I was so young. Mm-hmm. And she said, just, get on the phone, call them. So I did call them, and they were not hiring at that point. But she said, you got to be persistent. Just keep calling them. They'll get so fed up with you, they have to take you in. And that's actually how it went. And my only goal was to get out of Denmark. I was so intrigued and inspired by the fact that there were possibilities of working abroad. So I was hired as an admin, and based on my languages, I was pursuing everything that they posted, left, right, and center. I was not picky at all. So eventually they thought, since they couldn't get anybody to go to Belgrade, the former capital of Yugoslavia, and there was a war going, they asked me if I wanted to go, and I said, yeah, sure, I'll go. So that's basically how my career in the Foreign Service started. And I've had interesting jobs, but this was very, very interesting because I was so close to where foreign politics is made, and understand that it is not black and white, seen through a TV, excuse me, journalists, but it's not, you got to see the width and the depth of it. And I got close to that, and I'm so grateful for that. Then I established family. I met my ex-husband, my wonderful ex-husband, who is the father of our son. He is from Belgrade, and we met in Belgrade. And for security reasons, they had to call me back to Denmark. So he came to Denmark, we got married, and after a couple of years, we had our son, different postings. After Belgrade, I went to Saudi Arabia, and I finished in Budapest in Hungary, and we had a divorce. So I was a single mom. Marcus, our son, stayed with me, and that was just too tough. At that point, I had reached the level of consul, and I was working day and night, and I couldn't, I didn't feel like a mother. I was constantly living in guilt. And one day I just decided I got to get out of this. I've got to do something. So I had an interim phase on parental leave. I was granted parental leave. So I went back to Denmark with my son and settled down close to my mother. And I slowly found a job in the dairy industry, the biggest dairy company in Scandinavia, actually, called Arla, which is a conglomerate between Denmark and Sweden. Got a job there and sort of like calmed down, settled down, felt the dirt under my nails again on Danish soil, and my son had a close relationship to his grandmother, my mother, and I was so blessed to be nearby her again. I'm very closely attached to my mom is gone now, but we were very close. And at some point it became too local for me. Without sounding arrogant, I missed that window to the world. So what seemed like a coincidence, of course, I don't believe that anything is a coincidence, but it seemed like a coincidence. I was linked up to my cousin who was working in an employment agency, and I said, I want to do something else. I want to get into a small company, dealing with foreign markets. I don't care what, but just so that I can be the one wearing the many different hats. And she said, you know what, we've got a corporate agreement with Siemens. And I said, Siemens, good Lord, that's a big company. She said, never mind, you'll get over it. You'll find a small office somewhere. So eventually I was hired to start off with in Siemens Wind Power. Siemens had just bought up a Danish wind turbine company. And I was hired to actually find out how many foreigners there were in the building, because at that point they were getting into big time compliance. So they wanted me to find out, who are the foreigners here, where do they come from, do they have the necessary papers, and if not, fix it. So that became the beginning of a wonderful career in a growing global mobility office, where at some point I became the manager of the office with 19 employees, 19 subordinates, and we were handling expatriations and short, middle term and long term foreign assignments for both technicians, fitters, management, specialists, project management. Very interesting. We had like 3,500, 4,000 of those a year. But we also welcomed and onboarded foreign colleagues from abroad to Denmark. And rather than the paperwork, which was also interesting and important, I was handling the soft landing. How are you? Who are you? What's your plan? What do you do? What's your go-to when things get hard? Because things do get hard. Which were the elephants in your life before you moved to here. If you don't handle them now, they will grow into dinosaurs. Let's talk. So very interesting. And before I left, we had some 720 foreigners divided from 72 different nations. Very rewarding.
Yes.
But I then jumped into pursuing the certificate of sex and couples therapy, because I was working, I was a workaholic, and my son was growing, and work got the best of my years and my energy. And again, this shamefulness and guilt hit me. And actually my son woke me up, bless his wonderful soul. So I changed course and pursued this degree and started my own business, because I could shape my daily work life to also give him the better of me. And I'm so happy that I did. So corporate into private and into very, very private. deeply personal field. Yeah.
Okay. All right. And so, what are you doing today? And talk a little bit about the Girl Gone International group.
That is a little bit by coincidence. I started working for this Danish company because that's also a coincidence. I won't go into those details because then I can talk until the cows come home. But thanks to my job, I met one of the ladies who was a member of Girl Gone International in another community in Florida. And she reached out to me, a Danish woman, and she reached out to me and she said, "Oh, is there a GGI in Las Vegas?" And I thought, my God, that sounds like a gynecologist or something. I was like, GGI, all these abbreviations. I was really not familiar, and still I'm not familiar with all these abbreviations. And she said, no, it's a women's group, for to have a social platform where women can feel safe and feel they belong and meet friends. And I was like, okay. So I started investigating it and reached out to the Berlin group, which is where the leaders that formed Anne Scott, who formed GGI some 11 years ago, was located. And I investigated. I didn't know that much about them, but I thought, there isn't a community here. Would I be eligible to start one? And so that's how we started in November of 2020. And now we're getting close to 100 members now, which is so cool and growing. I mean, that's my goal, is that we grow so that people feel more comfortable. We have greater opportunities to do fun stuff together, maybe have some more community managers who can take care of specific areas like book clubs, movies, physical activities, excursions, hiking, whatever. That's my plan. And of course, there's a global set of I wouldn't say rules, but nice guidance that we all abide by, which makes it such a safe place to be, because we know in here we don't discriminate one another, we don't talk each other down, we don't belittle anybody, we don't talk religion, politics, all of that stuff that can really create a fuss. Yeah.
Right. Excellent. And I'm a member, and it's been a lot of fun, and that's actually how you and I met. So it's been a great time. Really has.
Yes, it is. And I'm so happy about that, Mary Beth.
Yes, it's been great connecting and getting to know you. And one of the questions I have, I mean, you've had quite the career and still do. What do you attribute your success to?
My mother. Only my mother. Not only my mother. That's wrong to say that, because I've met so many people who've really supported me and embraced me and carried me and loved me. She is my role model number one in regards to success in my doing. Because when my father had the MS, and he died all of a sudden of a heart attack when I was 16, and my mother was 1 month short of turning 60, and she had been his caretaker, and I knew her as a caretaker. And whenever she wanted some space and some healing for herself, she would go into the garden, and she grew the garden into a big park. And when my father died, one of the first things, I mean, mourning of course, but one of the first things she turned to me and asked me is, if I open my garden, if I invite people into my garden and have a small business here, will you help me? I can only do it if we do it together. And I was like, wow, yeah, I will, absolutely. And I was in school at that time. I was in high school. She bought a small car, and every night she was baking cookies, and she made sure that we had enough coffee and tea. And then every day she would make coffee and tea, and people would come in, and we had masses of people coming in to walk in the park, but also look at her flowers and talk about the plants and can we exchange something. And I saw my mother grow at a fairly high, 59. And we opened the garden when she was 60, and I was like, wow,
Yeah.
wow. And everybody else in the village was, wow. And she showed me that nothing is ever too late, and nothing is too small or too stupid to not pursue it. If it's real, if it feels good, go for it. And she's always pushed me. When I was done with high school, I didn't know what to do. I wanted to be an actress, and she said, "Call your cousin. He was a teacher on one of the drama schools in Denmark." And I called him and I said, "Hey, do you have room? Do you have an opening?" He said, "Nope. We're all signed up for the next season, but I could use a hostess in Holland." So he was also running a travel agency, sending Danish tourists to Holland to these canal
Okay.
boats. And he said, I need one on Saturday. And this was a Thursday afternoon. And I turned to my mother, the widow, and I said, "I don't know what to do." And she said, "Go for it. Get moving. Go and pack your bag." So,
Great.
yeah. She's
Really
the reason for
supportive.
my success. She pushed me out of the nest, and trust me, it wasn't easy for her. She cried a lot when I finally left and finally moved to Holland. But she's the one.
Yeah, that's an amazing story. I love that about the garden and bringing the community together. And
Yeah.
I'm sure she helped so many people through that. Just
Yes.
having a place to go and support and beauty, right?
Absolutely.
Just enjoying the beauty. Wow,
Absolutely.
that's a great story. Is the garden still functioning, or is it still?
It is, but in a different shape. So she left the farm. She sold the farm. She had rented out the land over the years when my father was ill. But then she sold the farm, and the first few years, the new owners did not at all take care of the garden. So it was just, weeds grew up everywhere, and it was just so sad. But then a little bit later, another couple bought the farm, and the land was sold, and only the house was left and and the park.
Right.
And they've done wonders to it. So, and they actually allow me to visit it every time I'm in Denmark. I can see my mother's spirit there still. I still feel her when I walk into the garden. There's a very big birch tree with blood red leaves. And I used to have a big swing underneath there, and that's still standing. That tree is still there. So it's like,
that's beautiful.
still there, Mama.
Yeah, always. Yeah, that's beautiful. Really beautiful story. And I think you've answered a lot of this, but the women's history theme for this year is providing healing and promoting hope. And it was really a tribute to the caregivers and the frontline workers during the pandemic, of course, but it's also recognizing women of all cultures, who provide healing and hope. And so I'm curious how that theme resonates for you in your personal and professional life.
Very much, very much. I'm very fond of connecting with women. I'm very fond of supporting women, and I'm very fond of being a woman, especially because I think we've got our contribution to our own life, not to forget, this is where we have to start always, our contribution to our own life in shaping it the way that's right for us, but also our ability through compassion, if I may use that term, and compassion for women worldwide. When we connect to one another, regardless of background and culture and whatnot, we will actually meet each other in the level of imperfection, and that's where we are all alike. It's in the imperfection. It's in the hard stuff. It's in the bad feelings. It's in It's in the de-selfing. It's in the belittlement. That's where we can meet each other and say, hey, you're a kick-ass sister. Don't ever talk yourself down. Don't ever do anything but talk yourself up and grow from the miracle that you were born to be.
That's beautiful. That's great. Absolutely agree with you. And so kind of in closing, you know, the question I have, and I've talked with you about this, that I feel it's really important that as women, we're role models to each other and also to the younger generation. And you've given us some great pieces of advice from you and from your mom. But if you had one piece of advice to share today, what would that be?
It would be to, so if we're talking specifically into the young women, don't be afraid to, it's a two-sided thing. Don't be afraid to ask a woman that's older than you. And I would say, don't be afraid to ask a very old woman of how life has been for her. And at the same time, sit down and listen. Just pay attention to what's said, hear her story, and then feel how much of what she has went to lives through you as well.
Beautiful. Yeah, you've had like just amazing wisdom to share with us and beautiful stories. And
thank you.
I thank you for opening your heart to us and sharing your story. And if you're, you know, for our listeners, if you like our video, please share, like it, comment. And again, Helle, it's great to see you, and thank you for supporting this project.
Thank you for asking me. I'm very honored. Thank you. And all the best.